Don't call her cute, don't call her feisty. She's a rebel, she is nasty, she is brave. She isn't honey, sweetie, sugar pie, baby. And don't you ever say that she was well behaved. Don't you ever say that she was well behaved. And don't you ever say that she was well behaved.
What'd you do last night? You went to a dance party?
I went to the Creek Bros at the Creek in the Cave, and then it was Jack Comstock and Blair Dawson's birthday party at Tender Trap. But it was like they had their birthday there, but then it was also the bar's like ugly Christmas sweater party. So there was like a DJ and then all these like normal people with wearing ugly Christmas sweaters. There was like a dancer on the bar, like not a stripper, but a sexy dancer. And then just like a bunch of comics. But it was really fun because the DJ was really good. And I was like feeling sick. I've kind of had a cold all weekend.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to just, I don't know. It was on the way home, the party. And I was like, I'll just go. Maybe I'll have like one hot toddy. And then I had 2 hot toddies. And then I danced really late. And that was sort of stupid. Especially because we were doing this today, but luckily you were able to push it back. So
I was so relieved when I got that text.
Oh my god, I did them both today.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, because the week just got away from me and my plan was to do it on Saturday.
Yeah.
And Shaggy's been out of town, and so I woke up on Saturday and I was like, I'm gonna do my laundry. And while I'm doing my laundry, I'm going to like do my research and I'll clean up a little bit. And so my first round of laundry, I came back and I like did the dishes and I took care of Bamford. And then I went back and the 3 machines that I was using had all broken. And so the woman who was working there was like, I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to do this again. Like, I'm not going to charge you again, obviously, but I have to do it again in some other machines. And then that whole side of machines had broken.
So there was no machines for you to use?
There was like another side, but it's crowded on Saturday.
Yeah.
So, and she was just like, I'll take care of it for you. But that meant that I had to like wait. So the first 2 machines broke. She took my clothes out to rewash them. And then I had to wait for my 3rd load to finish to see if it had broken. Oh. And it had.
Oh, God.
So then I was just standing there for like 20 minutes. And then she was like, come back in half an hour. And I was like, well, I can't really do much in half an hour. No. So I just like, like wiped down the bathroom or whatever. Yeah. And then I came back and then Shacky came home. He was out of town. And so then it was like talking to him. And then before I knew it, it was
time to go to the set.
So Saturday I actually went to a Knicks game because my brother came into town with his new girlfriend who is originally from New York. Cool. And her family has season tickets to the Knicks.
Fun.
So she brought me, Adam, and Shacky to the next game, and it was really nice. And I was like, good job, I like you now. That's really all it took.
That's awesome.
And it was so fun and it was so cool. I had never been to Madison Square Garden before.
Really? It's so ugly.
It's not great, but it felt like it's just such a mythical place in my mind.
Yeah.
And it was so cool.
That's fun. Sports games are fun.
It was really fun. And like, when we were walking in though, because I forgot that you would have to go through security. Mm-hmm. And I have in the winter, I don't carry a purse. Because I have such like I have so many pockets in my coat.
Yeah.
So I just carry everything in there, but I'm also a dog walker. So I carry everything.
Yeah. And
so when we got to the metal detector, I just like took off my coat and I was going to hand it to them. And they were like, you don't need to take off your coat. Just take everything metal out. And I was like, it's going to be so much quicker if I just take off my coat. And they're like, no, you have to take everything out. So they all went through security real fast. And I had to take out, they were laughing at me so hard, the security guards, because I had like, a set of like 20 keys.
Right.
And then my regular keys, and then my phone charger, and then my phone, and then also like a pack of gum that has to come out because there's aluminum in it.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's really funny.
And that was my first impression meeting this like beautiful, very put together young woman like my brother's dating.
You're like, I am a homeless.
I'm a mess. Very nice to meet you. Your hair smells so good.
Oh my God. That's really funny.
And then we watched the game and it was really fun. And then
did Knicks lose?
No, they won.
Oh,
they won.
That's great.
Which like I don't normally care about, but you know when you're there.
Yeah.
And she cared so much because like her family, they're all like really big Knicks fans or whatever.
Tickets.
And then we went to the comedy club. And then I came home at like 1:00 and got your text. And I was like, yes.
Thank God. And I was like in bed eating ice cream. I was like, I'm tired. I'm going to bed.
Beautiful. It worked out really well.
It did. I'm so glad. Yeah, we're going to do 2 in a row right now because I'm going to Los Angeles tomorrow.
That's so nice.
It's not going to be that hot. I mean, it's going to be
not
going
to be this cold.
No, but it's going to be in the 40s at night. What the fuck?
What about during the day? What do you get during the day?
60s and 70s. Pretty good, but I kind of wanted to go swimming. It might not be swimming weather.
Baby.
It might be hot tub weather.
Yeah. Every weather is hot tub weather.
That's true. So we'll see.
Are you guys staying in a hotel or you stay with Louis' parents?
We're staying with his parents in LA, and then we're doing shows at the Ace Hotel in Palm Springs next weekend. And so we get to stay at the Ace Hotel in Palm Springs, which will be very fancy. Very fancy.
Is Palm Springs warmer?
Yeah, it is.
Where
the
is
desert.
Okay.
So it should be warmer, but then I looked at the weather report and it doesn't seem that much warmer. It seems like the same. But then Louis insisted to me that it will feel much colder at night there.
Yeah, because it's
hotter
because it's the desert. That's kind of nice though. You get the contrast, so it feels.
Yeah, except then it's also like twice the shit to pack.
I didn't think about that.
I hate packing for weather when it's gonna be like 70 and 40. Like, what am I supposed to bring? Ugh. So I have to do that after.
Do you have like a solid hoodie, like a zip up?
I do have a good hoodie. That's actually a good idea to definitely bring that. And I don't know, I'll just bring a bunch of stuff and whatever. It'll be fine.
That's what I got Shaki for Hanukkah. It was like a good zip up hoodie.
Ooh, from our Uniqlo?
From Patagonia.
Wow.
Yeah.
You gave presents already?
Yeah. I mean, it's like the 6th night of Hanukkah.
Both Jewish.
Yeah. Also,
what did he give you?
Well, I requested, because he was like, what do you want? And I couldn't really think of anything. But then I realized I really wanted gloves that have like the removable fingers. So you can, I just asked for winter gear. I also asked for like it's not a hat, but it's like when you wear a ponytail, the thing that goes around your ears.
Oh, yeah.
Your head. I asked for one of those. And then I asked for a hat that had like silk line, like satin lined, because so my hair gets so tangly.
That's good. Very practical.
So, I know. I just asked for winter stuff, and I think it made him sad. Because winter's so depressing.
Oh, my God.
But
did he ask for a sweatshirt? Or
he asked for a hoodie. And so I
like that you guys ask each other.
Yeah.
Louis has this whole thing about how he talked to Julie about this once, about love languages and how his love language is gifts.
Oh yeah, I talked to Julie about
this. And my
this.
love language, I guess, is not gifts. Yeah. I'm so bad at it. It stresses me out, and he takes it so personally. He's like, well, gifts just means that you're listening, and you know that like, because you know someone says something that they want, you know that they want it, and it's just proof that you're listening to them. And I'm like, ugh. So I've been taking notes of things. I'm not going to say it though. He probably won't listen to this. Now I was like, when are we even going to do gifts? Because we're going out of town. I said, we're going to do it the day we get back. I mean, I thought of an idea. I'll tell you what I'm going to do off mic. I think it'll be good now. I think I figured it out today what I'm going to do, but I hate buying gifts. Me and my brother every year do the nice thing for each other where we just agree not to get each other anything. And it is honestly, I did a Summy card about this, but it's honestly the best gift every year. Although then it kind of sucks because actually buying something for my brother would probably be the easiest.
Yeah.
He's actually maybe the easiest to shop for.
I'm glad you said that because I was stressed out about whether or not I should get you a gift.
Oh my God, please don't get me a gift.
I will not.
Everyone, just don't give me a gift. It's so
What's your love
stressful to me.
language?
I don't know. What are the other ones?
I don't remember, but when I talked to Julie about this, I think like the thing that makes me happiest is like if Shaki wakes up before me, if he makes coffee for me.
Like small actions or something like that. I think that's mine too. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I love getting gifts.
Right. But the idea of
can my love language be getting gifts?
Can it just be selfishness?
Can my love language be at least I'm pretty.
It's
you know,
you are very pretty.
Thank you so much.
But it's really hard. Like it's
I don't know.
Especially,
It's so
I mean, Shaggy's really into like technology and stuff, and I don't have the money for that.
I know. I'm about to drop $100 on them.
Yeah, I mean that's and then I do these like
God.
There's this program where when certain items on Amazon need reviews, they'll like offer you, like if you buy it and write a review, they reimburse you.
Really?
Yeah, it's great.
Well, I want to do that.
And I'll see if I can recommend you, but one came up for me for this like this heating pad for your back, and so I got that for him too because it cost me $0.
That's awesome. Does
he has a lot of back problems. Yeah, he does. Because he was like, "Why did you get this for me?" I was like, "Well, I didn't pay for it." So
that's awesome.
Yeah, and when
what
he
other kind of stuff comes up on there?
It's a lot of stuff like that, like sheets, bed sheets. I got a flashlight that is both battery operated and rechargeable.
Oh, that seems sort of unnecessary, but
yeah, but it is, but it's
good to have. I guess
it's good to have, and I think when it was offered to me, it was like during all of the hurricanes, and I was like, we have to be prepared for everything.
That's good.
So I got that, and what else have I gotten from there?
Random stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of like weird things like that.
Were you and Jackie giving presents every night or just the 6th?
No.
Is the 6th the biggest one? I don't know.
No, it's just tonight is the 6th.
Oh, you just did it today.
Honestly, no, we did it like last. Honestly,
okay.
I think we did it before Hanukkah even because I just wanted my gloves.
See, I wish that's out. I mean, that's what I want to do. There's so many things I want. I feel like I don't know. I mean, Louis is usually pretty good. But then what if he gets me something else and I'm like, I wanted to, if I just ask me what I want, then I'll get it, He'll probably get me something I want, but there are things I'd like him to get me,
Yeah.
We'll see.
Just ask.
No, I can't ask. It's a whole thing. It's his whole love language.
All right.
I don't know.
Okay. I know
it's
one
awful.
time.
It's so. I
get it.
I hate presents.
I think
so
Shaggy likes
stressful.
to act like it. He doesn't care, but it's like one time we went on a date to the library. Oh boy. He wanted to show me the map room. He's very sweet. But there was like a glass case in the gift shop, and they had these solar powered little Albert Einstein figurines, and it's like it has him like tapping his head back and forth, and Jackie was just like, those are so cool. And then for our anniversary, it was like 3 months later, I went back and got that for him.
That's good.
And that lit, like his face just
he was
lit up
so
like
excited.
a child. He was so excited. And he didn't see it coming.
Yeah, that's good. Because then Louis explained it to me today. I kept having to be like, okay, wait. So now I have some ideas of what to get you, but I don't know which one to choose. And what if you would like the other one more? And he was like, I don't know. Just, it's something that they wouldn't buy for themselves.
Yeah.
That they would want. And I was like, okay.
He's a romantic.
I know. It's so annoying. I think I know what I'm going to do. I'll tell you after, but I think I know what I'm going to do now.
I know what I'm getting.
I think
Liz,
you'll like
and
it.
then I think I'm done. That's all I need to get.
That's good. Oh, you got your parents and everyone already?
My parents and I don't exchange gifts.
Oh,
and even growing up, Hanukkah wasn't like a bit, like we would get presents. We didn't get them every night because my parents were just like, hi, we're middle class. We would get one big one.
Yeah.
Like 1 year I got like an easy bake oven. Ooh. And holy shit, that was amazing. But usually it was like clothes, which is also very funny because it's like, no, that's something you have to buy for me. Like, you're my parent. I need clothes. You're just using this as a way to
do it all at once,
which like fine. I mean, I get it. You're like, my dad's a teacher.
Yeah. No, I know. My parents were
grateful.
so like decadent with presents, and they still kind of are, and it's very sweet and I appreciate it, but it's just stressful. Me and my brother were talking about it today, like what we're gonna get. My mom will listen to this, so I feel like she'll whatever. Hi, Mom. But but we're like talking about what we're gonna get people. It's also weird this year because I'm gone for Christmas. It's my first year away from home for Christmas.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I'll be not home for Christmas.
No, I'll be in Palm Springs for Christmas.
Hell yeah.
Actually, I'll be flying back here on Christmas Day, but it'll be all right. Anyway, we should probably get into it, huh?
Yeah, let's do our podcast.
Welcome to Well Behaved. This is a podcast about obscure women in history who maybe you've never heard of. Maybe you had. I realize that the woman I picked today is maybe very famous. I had just never heard of her, so sorry in advance if this is a doozy for you. I'm
Ariel Elias.
I'm Molly Ruben-Long.
And this is our podcast.
Yay. Do you want to,
You're first.
Me. Okay. My first, okay. So I said this off mic, but I'll say it on mic. Because of the Christmas season, I decided to pick 2 Jewish women to do. So you'll hear one Jewish woman this week and then one Jewish woman next week on Christmas Day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, our podcast is being released on Christmas Day.
So when you need an escape.
Yeah, there you go. We got it for you. But so for this week, I picked a woman named Hedy Lamar.
Never heard of her.
Okay, great. Okay, good. Maybe like some.
I probably heard it. Like the name sounds familiar, but I don't know what she did.
I know. I'm especially impressed because I feel like you would know all the famous Jewish women.
I don't know that many Jewish women though. I just knew the hits.
The hits, yeah, the big ones. Yeah,
your Anne Franks.
Yeah.
And the
next
your
one is
Anne
like
Franks.
This one like she like denied her Judaism her whole life, so like this one's doesn't totally count. This is a self-hating Jew, but the next one is like a martyr of Israel. So
great.
That one's like hella Jewish. This one, and they both take place around the same time. World War II is when really Jews became notable. But anyway, so Hedy Lamar was born November 9th, 1913 in Vienna, Austria. Her
oh no.
Well, no. She's fine.
Okay.
She's an actress and an inventor. Spoiler. Okay. But her original name is Hedwig Eva Maria Keisler. Okay. So as a teenager, like around 17 years old, she's discovered by an Austrian film director because she is gorgeous. She, at some point in her life, is like called the most beautiful woman in the world. She's like what Snow White was based on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jesus.
She does look like that. She's stunning. But that's also like sort of her cage, as you will see. She's like never taken seriously, really, because of that. So anyway, in 1933, she's cast in a Czech film called Ecstasy, which was very scandalous because it showed her nude, like frolicking about and
at
swimming
raves and stuff.
Different kind of ecstasy,
with glow sticks,
sexual ecstasy.
Okay.
And apparently she it also like portrays a woman having an orgasm, which
a what?
Never heard of it. Which the director got her to do apparently by pricking her with pins.
What?
To get the writhing. Yes. What? It was very creepy. And she was 17. And then I saw this, and then I watched this interview with her, like from the late 60s, like 69, I think. And it was like some talk show where Woody Allen was like co-hosting, which was so weird. And like Mom's Mabley was on. And then she started talking about the movie Ecstasy and like, and she was saying something about how she like didn't know that the cameras were zooming in on her when she was naked in the movie. So the whole thing feels like really creepy.
And Woody
weird.
Allen was like, I know you were 17 at the time, but you were just a little too old for me.
No, yeah. Woody Allen's like, they have this weird also she's like introduced on that show, on that like talk show, as like, it's like she's the most beautiful woman in the world. What a looker. Like everything about like any way anyone ever talked about her was her looks. And it's just like so gross and weird and like I hate it. It was really spooky to watch. Yeah, and Woody Allen's just like creepy and like there, and it's like ugh. And like making jokes about blonde and like she was like you like blondes, and he was like, how do you know that? And she was like, I've seen your movies or whatever. And he's like I can make an exception, but clearly she's like older at this point. The whole thing was like spooky and gross. Anyway, but she's in this movie Ecstasy, and that kind of like puts her on the map. But she marries a man named Fritz Mandl, who was the third wealthiest man in Austria.
Wow. He
was a munitions manufacturer who eventually would sell arms to the Nazis. He was like a close personal friend of Mussolini. Like Mussolini was apparently a close personal friend, and they were like he would come over for dinners and stuff. He was a dinner guest. So needless to say, this marriage was bad. So she divorces him. I can't really tell if she divorces him or if she just like flees to the US and then eventually later divorces him. But anyway, she like escapes the marriage.
Did he know that she was Jewish? Is this like a Queen Esther
she
situation?
Always was like denied it a little bit, and then also this was he was like this was like pre it being like super anti-Jew times,
right.
You know, this was like 35 maybe.
We're like in between hating Jew times.
It's like Jews
you're
aren't
never
loved.
pre.
Right, you're never pre, but it's like it's pre like not it's pre-Hitler,
yeah,
kind of. It's right before, you know. So I think maybe that just didn't come up or whatever. I mean, yeah, it's interesting to think that if she had stayed with him, like how that would have been handled. Yeah, you know, if like a higher up Austrian,
it's a Heil up
Austrian munitions manufacturer was married to a Jew. I don't know what they would have done with those Jews, but I don't know. So anyway, she flees to the United States and she convinces the head of MGM to have her sign a contract, which at that time was like how they, made movies. It's like you'd have a contract with a studio. It was very. Did you watch the thing on IFC, the show with the I'm blanking. That show that was just on IFC with the two old movie actresses, and Susan Sarandon was in it, and she wasn't very good, but the other woman was so good. Never mind. No. Someone's yelling at their thing right now, but it's anyway, it was like around that time. So anyway, so she signs a contract with MGM and she makes a bunch of movies and does really well and is like stars alongside, all the famous people of the time. So she's in movies such as Algiers, which becomes a box office hit. That was her first one. And then Lady of the Tropics, Boomtown, Tortilla Flat, Samson and Delilah. Samson and Delilah was 49. So at this point, she's starting to age out. Apparently, she was the director's first choice for Casablanca, but eventually the role went to Ingrid Bergman. But she was like a huge star in the 30s and 40s.
I feel like I've heard my parents talk about her.
Yeah, Hedy Lamar. Yeah, she was very famous, but because she was so beautiful, like no one ever took her seriously. So weirdly, during this time, like in 1942, during the height of her career, she and a friend, composer George Antheil, I think his name is how you pronounce it. It's Antheil, received a patent for the idea of a radio signaling device or a secret communication system, which was a means of changing radio frequencies to keep enemies from decoding messages. So basically, like she had always been an inventor, a tinkerer. At one point, she dated Howard Hughes. And he, you know who he is? He's the guy who designed airplanes. He's the guy who, there's like all these movies that have been made about him. He was like he was like a very eccentric airplane designer and filmmaker and just like a weird guy, but he was very like famous, and they dated at one point because Howard Hughes dated like all the hot women at the time. But apparently, like Howard Hughes knew that she was sort of an inventor and a designer and just a person who always liked to like tinker with things. So she at her home, she had like an inventing table, but he like provided her with the equipment to put one into her trailer when she was like making movies. And he like was like, if you ever need any of my scientists to like do anything for you. So like a couple of scientists helped her work on this project she was doing, trying to like have some kind of capsule that you could put into water to make it like a Coca-Cola, which never really went anywhere. But she was just always kind of an inventive mind. And apparently, like this is according to a quote by her, but apparently he was working on a plane design, and the wings were like rectangular, and she looked at books of like the fastest fish and the fastest birds and like drew a design and like gave it back to him and was like, you should make the wings more like slanted and like whatever. And he was like, you're a genius. I mean, that's like according to her. So I don't know. But I think I think it is true that she had like, there's evidence of her being like an inventor, a tinkerer, a problem solver. And I say all this because as with any female inventor in the world, her accomplishments are to this day discredited. There's a lot of people who say that she got the idea from her like first husband when she was back in Austria, or that the composer actually did it all himself, which I'm like, if he did that, why would he put her on the patent with him? Like,
also, like, even if she got the idea from her first husband, he didn't do anything with it.
Right. You would also say, yeah, it's like if a guy had gotten the idea from someone else and then created the patent when they got here, you would say he was the inventor. Like, right. What the hell?
It doesn't matter. Like, just because the thought in that you have come up with you're not the first person to ever come up with that.
Yeah.
It doesn't, like, it's about what you do with it.
Well, I was reading this article in the New York Times too that was kind of about her. There was some study done, this was a couple of years ago, but basically that there's preconceived notions that genius arrives in a man when an idea just comes out of nowhere, whereas genius in a woman is like an idea that's nurtured, and that it like negatively affects both people, because like if a woman just thinks of an idea, like she's like not believed or whatever in terms of like invention
or
like,
everything else.
Right, exactly. So it's like anyway, but so yes, she definitely did like come up with this idea with him together. And what's cool is that she like moved here and was like realizing what was going on and was like, I'm just like a rich actress, like I should help in some way. So she's trying to think of ideas of what to do, and her and this composer like come up with this idea of like messing with radio frequencies so that it throws off the enemy. It never gets picked up during World War II. An event during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the government does use it, but by that point her patent has run out, and the composer guy's already passed away by then. And it is the basis for it later becomes the basis of the technology for Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cell phones. So wow. It's like everything that we use today. So
podcasts.
But it was podcasts, exactly. You listening to this right now. And so it's because of her their idea that we have all this stuff, but it wasn't known till like decades later, you know. So for a long time she's not really like recognized for it, but in 1997 they both received, I mean he was dead but she was alive, received the Electronic Frontier Foundation Pioneer Award, and the same year she was the first female to receive the Bulby Gnass Spirit of Achievement Award, which apparently is like the Oscars of inventing. So that's pretty cool. Meanwhile, that's like sort of a side thing, and it's also like a cool part of her legacy, but there's more to her story a little bit. Her last film was The Female Animal in 1958. And basically, like, she just has a really tough personal life. It seems like once she like hit her peak in terms of like beauty and acting, once her beauty started to fade, the industry just kind of kicked her out. Yeah. And she like just really struggled personally to live the rest of her life. I mean, she lived to like I think she lived till 86. She died in 2000. And it just was like kind of a sad life for the second half. She ended up marrying 6 times. She had 3 kids. One was a kid who was adopted during her second marriage in 1939. And then
they adopted the kid, or was adopted out?
No. She adopted a kid. But then I read this article in the New York Post from like 2001 that said that there was evidence that he wasn't actually adopted, but she like treated him really badly. Like she had 2 other kids who were her biological kids from the third marriage. Yeah, the third marriage. And then after she died, she left those 2 kids each like over $1 million, and she left 4 friends over $80,000, and she left the adopted son no money. So he sued and ended up settling for like $50,000. But like also she sent him to boarding school at age 11, and like they didn't talk for like 50 years. So
I wonder.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, there's also like evidence of her being abusive and like being addicted to drugs. she had like a real addiction to plastic surgery that ended really badly, which was like just a sad attempt at grasping her beauty back, you know, and it just all went really horribly wrong.
That seems to happen a lot.
Yeah. There's a documentary out about her right now called Bombshell, the Hedy Lamar story, which I would like to see. It is produced by Susan Sarandon. Speaking of Susan Sarandon, people I'm not interested in supporting, but whatever. This seems interesting. And the director of this said that when she was trying to make the movie, producers would be like, yeah, but that story's not really true. Like, she didn't actually invent that, you know?
Really?
Yeah. Like, people were trying to stop her from having it made.
They're like telling the person who's doing the research that it's not true.
That it's not true. Yeah. And the director, her name's Alexandra Dean, I think, was like doing a series on, I forget what station, like PBS maybe or something like that, where she was doing a series on inventors, and she was like realizing how few of the inventors that she was covering were women. So she was trying to find a woman to do a documentary about, and that's kind of how she came upon her. So other little tidbits about her life. In 1953, she became a U.S. citizen, and just in her later years, she became a real recluse in a community outside of Orlando. She only talked to her kids on the phone, and she sent for like the last like 10, 20 years of her life or something. And she just would, this was really like kind of funny. She would send her grandchildren signed headshots, which I thought was,
I feel like my grandmother would have done that too if she had headshots.
I thought that was pretty funny.
That's some narcissistic
It's like really
shit.
sad, but really funny. So she's a complicated woman. Yeah, she denied her Judaism till the end of her life. Like, there's a quote of her daughter calling her and being like when she was like starting to get older and stuff, and being like, hey, like all these people are saying we're Jewish, and she was like, don't be ridiculous. But then like there was like evidence that she was. So yeah, let me see. Oh, and then so there's a couple cool things. There's one quote from her that is amazing, which is, any girl can be glamorous. All you have to do is stand still and look stupid. Which is really good. And yeah. Oh, and this is like a 1942 magazine story that kind of just like highlights the kind of attitude that was given to her after she came up with this invention. This is a quote. It does seem incredible that anyone as beautiful and as fragile looking as the luscious Hedy could be mechanically minded. So, you know, it was just not the best. Let me see if there's something I'm forgetting.
Can you hear my eyes rolling?
Yeah. In 2014, she was posthumously?
No, I don't know.
After her death was inducted into the National Inventors Hall.
Posthumously.
No, that's what this podcast is. Roasted.
Boy. Yeah.
So anyway, she died January 19th, 2000 at the age of 86. Posthumously. There she goes. I think that's all the information about her. So yeah, she's just like when I first saw like a tidbit about her, I was like, ooh, an actress and inventor, this looks fun. And then I was like, oh, it's kind of dark, but it is. She did live like, she definitely is a problematic figure, but she definitely also lived like a crazy life to just have to like leave the country. I saw one article that said she left Austria with like only a designer gown in her bag or something, like something crazy. So I guess she just had this weird life. I saw something else that was talking about how like a lot of her struggle, like her point of view had to do with the fact that she left her family. She left like everything she knew at home and never turned back from it. And like, and that it's sort of weird that like living your whole life like that makes you kind of weird, you know.
And the rest of them, if they were Jewish, I wonder what happened to them. Like if they stayed in Austria.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That probably wasn't
I'm not
great.
sure. Yeah. So anyway, my sources were biography.com, newyorktimes.com, forward.com, the New York Post, the LA Times, and Vanity Fair. And that movie is playing at the IFC Center. It's called it's called Bombshell, the Hedy Lamar story.
Where's the IFC Center?
It's right when you get off the F train at like West 4th or any of this. It's like, you know that one right
over
there
by Washington Square Park.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
it's right there. Yeah.
Maybe we could go sometime.
I know we should. That's where I saw the Dolores Huerta movie too. I was like, oh, maybe I should just keep more of an eye on the IFC Center.
Yeah, man.
Maybe they have
IFC,
more like lady biopics.
They're doing it.
Yeah. So that was mine. Hedy Lamar.
Great. Okay, I'm gonna do my shorter one.
Yeah, was that a little? It was probably a little long.
Yeah, but it was great.
Okay,
it was wonderful.
And we chatted. So do the shorter one, and then the next one we'll chat less.
Okay. So I originally started doing somebody else, and that took me down a wormhole of like, they just like mentioned something very brief of like, it was like da da da, and there was like a hyperlink, and then they kept going, and I was like, well, I want to know who that woman was. So I researched her instead, but I will do the original one
day
later. But my woman is Irene Morgan, who she was born.
Is she related to JP Morgan?
No, very much not.
Okay.
She was born April 9th, 1917 in Baltimore, Maryland. She was a black woman who worked on the production line during World War II, assembling B-26 Marauder airplanes.
Wow, that's a good kind of airplane.
Well,
I don't know.
So apparently, B-26 Marauder airplanes were also known as Widowmakers because there were so many accidents that happened during takeoff and landing that killed pilots. So they were not the best guys.
Not a ringing endorsement for female mechanics.
No, but she wasn't a mechanic. She was you know, it was a man who designed it.
Yeah.
So, and then also men who were just like, yeah, I mean, I know people are dying left and right, but
we're going to still making these.
Keep going. Why make adjustments? It's a war. So Irene gets married. She has a couple of kids, and she's just living like a very normal life, like, you know, nothing spectacular, nothing exceptional. And then in July of 1944, Irene went to go visit her mom in Gloucester County, Virginia. And according to one source, she had just had a miscarriage, which like sort of plays into this story. I mean, I think it just makes her more of a sympathetic character in this story, but I only saw that in one source, and it was a very Christian source. It was one of these like, she was a woman of prayer, and it was prayer that led, which I'm not, you know, I'm not shitting on. It's just, I'm just saying like there was nothing else, and you know, Christian sources don't always need proof. So just saying. But regardless, so she's on her way back to Baltimore. She gets on the Greyhound bus. It's super crowded. It's real hot. And so she goes to the back of the bus and takes a seat in the last of 5 rows that are reserved for black passengers, or like the first row, like in the last 5, the one closest to the door. If you go back to episode 1 and listen, which I don't necessarily recommend, but there's the story of Claudette Colvin, who was the woman. She was a teenage girl who refused to give up her bus seat in Montgomery like a year before Rosa Parks did. But they explain, like, even though the back rows are where black passengers were allowed to sit, if the bus was crowded and a white person got on, the black people were expected to give up their seats for them. So Irene, who maybe just had a miscarriage, is sitting down next to another black woman who has a young toddler with her. And 30 miles into the drive, the bus stops to pick up more passengers, and a white couple gets on. So the bus is full. The bus driver tells Irene and the young mother to get up for the white couple. So the young mother gets up to give up her seat, and the white woman sits down. But Irene stays seated and was just like, no. And like, not that it really matters, because either way it's like racist and illegal and like bullshit and shitty. But like basically the situation is a white man trying to get a seat from a black woman who just had a miscarriage. Like just to, because I feel like that's just like so shitty. Extra shitty. So the bus driver drives straight to the police station where a cop gets on the bus and walks over to Irene with an arrest warrant. Irene then takes the warrant from him, looks at it, and rips it up.
What state is this again?
This is in Virginia, going to Maryland in 1944. So the cop...
Also, why are they picking up so many people on a Greyhound? You sell the number of seats.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's
I mean,
stupid.
I guess it's like, you know, just pack them all in, get as many tickets as possible.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I didn't look it up,
How
but
long
I don't...
are you going to stand for? Like...
Yeah, also, I didn't look it up, but like, I don't know how far Gloucester County, Virginia is from Maryland, but it's probably not that far.
Yeah, that's true.
So like if you're just going, and you know, it's 1944, like there probably wasn't, like people didn't just have cars. Like it was probably just more common to use the Greyhound as like a regular bus, I'm guessing. So
she rips up the ticket.
So she rips up the warrant.
Excuse me.
And then the cop goes to grab and arrest her, and she just starts flailing and kicks him right in the dick. She said, quote, "He put his hands on me to arrest me, so I took my foot and kicked him. He was blue and purple and turned all colors. I started to bite him, but he looked dirty, so I couldn't bite him. All I could do was claw and tear his clothes." I love that she was like gonna bite him and was like, "Ew, gross." No, thank you. So she's arrested, and when it's time for her to enter her plea, she pleads guilty to resisting arrest because she's like, "Oh yeah, I for sure kicked him in the dick, like very hard," and she pays $100 fine. But then she pleads not guilty to violating Virginia's segregation law. And even though it would have only been a $10 fine, she was just on principle, knew that it was wrong. And she was like, this is illegal. Like, you can't force me to, like, this isn't a city bus.
Yeah.
Like, this is an interstate bus. And so at the time, segregation had been upheld by the Supreme Court in Plessy versus Ferguson, but under the guise of separate but equal.
Yeah.
So like if you're saying that the bus has to be segregated, then you're also saying it has to be equal. You have to have equal seating. So you have to have seating available for black passengers. So yeah, it's just like obviously segregation is wrong, but this was just like an example of how it wasn't about keeping black people separate or like a stick to your own kind of thing.
No.
It was like straight up, how can we treat black people as less than?
Yeah.
Like, how can we oppress you? So like that seems very obvious, but I feel like it bears repeating
example of it.
that like that's why those laws existed. It was specifically for that.
Right.
It's not this like
heritage.
Yeah, it's not this like, well, they have Black History Month, why can't we have White History Month? You know, it's just like because like these laws weren't designed to like prevent mixing, they were designed to make sure that black people knew that they were less than.
Yeah.
And this was also way before Brown versus Education, which is what overturned Plessy versus Ferguson. And it's also how Claudette Colvin won her case. But like that hadn't happened yet. So officially Jim Crow laws hadn't really been ruled on yet.
Yeah.
So originally she lost her case, but Irene had the backing of the NAACP. And so they appealed to the Supreme Court. And the NAACP, of course, like chose their cases very carefully. But Irene was described as, quote, young, attractive, articulate, and judging by her poised performance in Saluda, which I assume is like where they were in the bus, strong enough to withstand the pressures of a high profile legal battle. Cause like, yeah, they like wanted, it had like the person who was going to be the face of these cases had to be sort of like the quote unquote perfect defendant.
Right. That was
Or
the reason
perfect
they used Rosa Parks instead of Claudette Colvin, kind of.
Right, because Claudette was like this feisty teenager,
teenage single mom, right?
And then
Wasn't she?
yeah, and then she got pregnant.
Oh, right.
So yeah, it's it's just like interesting. But one of her lawyers was Thurgood Marshall, who himself would go on to become the first Black Supreme Court justice. And okay, their argument was brilliant because, again, like there wasn't precedence yet regarding segregation laws. So their argument was that requiring seating changes across state lines on interstate trips would interfere with commerce, and that would place an unfair burden on Congress to regulate it. And since the Supreme Court had I had to read this so many times before I understood it, but since the court had previously ruled that it was illegal for a state to forbid segregation, it therefore also had to be illegal for a state to require segregation. So, for example, if
the states were separate but equal.
Yeah. So, like, if a Greyhound bus is coming from New Jersey where they don't have segregation, you can't require that bus to then segregate as it enters Virginia.
Right.
Which is like so fucking smart. It's not this like we're all created equal.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I know what the precedence is. I know what the law is, and I know how to use it. And I know how to use this like economic argument.
Yeah.
Which shouldn't have to be done, but I think it's
the
so
only thing that gets into
I
the
think it's
heads
so smart when they're able to do that.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court agreed.
Yeah, if only economic arguments mattered with the tax bill.
I think it said it was like they agreed 7-1. Where I was like, what happened to the ninth suit? But I also didn't write it down, so that could be wrong. And then after the ruling, so like Irene basically like this happened, and then she just lived a quiet life. She like moved to Queens. She got married again because her husband died in 1948, and she like started like a child care center. She got her master's, I think, in like the 60s. Like she just like lived a life.
Yeah.
But what happened after the ruling is that people started testing the enforcement of her ruling of like Morgan versus Virginia. And like, because like in this country, and like what we've learned on this podcast is that just because the law changes doesn't mean that the attitudes change with it, right? So, and it doesn't mean that law enforcement is going to comply. Like it's like, I think it's a similar thing with like the bakery that refused to bake the cake for the gay couple, or like when Kim Davis wouldn't sign marriage licenses for gay people in Kentucky, even though the Supreme Court ruled that you had to. So in 1947, black and white people started riding down into the South on a bus together to test to see if they would be arrested. And those rides, of course, were the beginning of the freedom rides that would eventually spark the civil rights movement of the 1960s.
Cool.
All thanks to Irene.
Irene.
And I had never heard of her.
No, I had never heard of her.
Irene Morgan, baby.
Wow. That's a good one. Oh my gosh. It's also cool how like I wonder if Claudette Colvin knew about her, but I don't think so. That was never in the research that we saw.
Not at all. Like she never mentioned it.
And it's just kind of cool that there was just like the same feeling of anger that like sparked a similar action amongst people over decades apart, you know?
And what's so interesting is like this comes up a lot of, and I mean, I think like men did it too, but specifically hearing about women who refuse to give up their seats. And that's how I'm going to do eventually Sarah Keys something. I forget her second last name, but she did a similar thing where she refused to give up her bus seat, and it led to something else. And then Polly Murray, who I was reading a book about for a while, also did the same thing once. Like it happens so much, and it's so interesting how like we only hear about Rosa Parks, which of course we should, but I think it's fascinating to hear that like it wasn't just this one action by this one woman.
No,
it was so like it was
this one action by many women.
Yeah. And it was like over decades of saying like no and like enough.
Right. And it's like, it's on the one hand, it's kind of disheartening because you're like, oh man, it takes so long for change. But on the other hand, especially in these times, it's like, it's a little bit inspiring because it's like, well, like all these small actions like add up. And, you know, things are still not perfect for African Americans in this country, obviously. But, you know, at least there have been major legislative victories, you know, and things like that. So it's interesting.
Yeah. And it's inspiring too of like, you know, because I think it's easy sometimes to feel hopeless or disheartened to see that, like, yeah, in this case specifically, like when it came to segregation, especially on the buses, like first there was this case, and you know, you would think that like after that, like everything should be fine, and it's like no, then they had to do this, and then they had to do this, and then they had to do this, and it's like, I think it's very inspiring to see a community that didn't give up and didn't become disheartened or disillusioned and was like, well, if that's what it takes, then like that's what we'll do. So I really liked her story.
That's a good one. I've never heard of her. Irene Morgan.
Irene Morgan. My sources were 13 Media with Impact, her New York Times obituary, this documentary called You Don't Have to Ride Jim Crow, which was that one had a lot of stories in it because it's like it's a lot of like the freedom riders and stuff, and the Virginia Historical Society.
Cool. That was great.
Thanks. I really liked her.
Wow. Well, this is great. We're about to do another one.
Yeah, I forgot to look up some inspiring women happening now.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right. This has been a crazy week.
You know what? Dear female listener, probably, it's you. It's you this week. It's like that year that Time magazine just put a mirror on their cover and was like, you're the person.
Yeah.
We're doing that this week.
That's great. And next week.
And next week. Just, you know, really, really revel in it.
Well,
soak it in.
Have a great week, you guys. And we'll talk to you. Oh, do you have anything to plug for this week?
Yeah.
Oh, if you're going to be in Palm Springs.
Are you doing shows while you're in Los Angeles too, or that's just a nice little
no,
vacation?
I kind of booked it too late, so I'll probably do Mike's or something.
Oh,
but
yeah.
What?
I just found out my first and last dog for tomorrow canceled, which means my day I get to sleep in a little.
Nice day.
Such
a nice day. That's great.
Okay.
So good.
I'll just go. On Thursday, the 21st, I'll be at Offside Tavern at 8 o'clock. On Friday, December 22nd, I'm really excited about this, and I still have to write all of my jokes for it, but I'm doing the roast of 2017 at the Creek in the Cave at 9 o'clock, or no, sorry, at 10 o'clock. And that is, I'm going as America. So I'll be doing that. And then Saturday, the 23rd, I'm going to be at Legion Bar in Williamsburg.
Cool.
And then at 9 o'clock on Saturday, the 23rd, I'll be at the Platform in Bushwick. And that is it. My cousin's coming into town on Tuesday. If you want to meet another Elias, come to those shows. He's really cool.
So cool. I'll be at the Ace Hotel in Palm Springs on the 22nd and the 23rd.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, that's been good.
That's been great.
And keep making history.